Hey there, adventurers! If you're enjoying the content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our amazing community. Don't forget to leave a like if this story hooked you, and be sure to activate the bell so you never miss a new episode. Thanks for watching, and let's keep exploring together. Chapter 9: The Dawn of a New Era. Back on Earth, the air was thick with tension. In every command center, in every colony, there was a collective pause as people waited for news. The fate of the Ebony Legion weighed heavily on everyone's mind. It had been a suicide mission from the beginning, a desperate gamble against impossible odds. Those left behind could only hope that the Legion had succeeded in their mission, though no one dared to voice the thought. Admiral Reynolds stood at the heart of the war room, his face grim, his eyes fixed on the reports coming in. The last communication from Harrington had been cut off, leaving only silence in its wake. The Hive had been their target, and Reynolds knew in his heart that his soldiers, his friends, would not return. Then, the silence was broken. A report came through, and the Hive was gone. The Stellar Hive, the source of the kardaani's power, had been destroyed in a massive explosion. The energy readings were unmistakable. The reactor had been destabilized, and fuse's charges had done their job. The Stellar Hive was no more. For a moment, the war room was deathly quiet as the weight of the news settled over everyone present. The mission had been a success, but there was no trace of the Ebony Legion. No one had survived. Reynolds stood still, the reality sinking in. The war was far from over, but a crippling blow had been dealt to the kardaani. The Hive's destruction meant that the enemy's forces were in disarray, their central power broken. It was a victory, but Reynolds could not feel it. His mind was with Harrington, with Whisper, with all those brave soldiers who had given everything so that humanity could have a future. He had sent them to their deaths, knowing there was no other choice. His chest tightened, his hands gripping the edge of the table before him. He knew the cost. He always knew the cost. Across Earth and its colonies, the news spread quickly. There was a collective sigh of relief, tempered by the grief that came with it. The Ebony Legion, humanity's greatest warriors, had fallen, but in their fall, they had saved millions. Public memorials were quickly organized as people across the world gathered to honor the sacrifice of the Legion. Statues were planned, names would be immortalized in history, and stories of their bravery would be told for generations to come. Though the war raged on, there was now hope. For the first time in years, humanity could look to the future and see the possibility of victory. In his private quarters, Admiral Reynolds stood at the observation window, staring out into the vastness of space. The stars shimmered coldly, indifferent to the struggles of those beneath them. His thoughts lingered on Harrington, his oldest friend, a man he had fought beside for years. There was a time when he had believed Harrington could survive anything, but even legends had their end. The loss felt personal, a deep, unrelenting ache. They had won a battle, but at a cost Reynolds wasn't sure he could ever fully accept. His reflection stared back at him from the glass, a tired man burdened with too many losses. But in that loss, he found a flicker of resolve. He would honor their memory by ensuring that their sacrifice was not in vain. The kardaani would fall, and humanity would rise from the ashes of this war. The galactic response to the destruction of the Hive was immediate and widespread. The Galactic Council, long held in the grip of fear by the kardaani's military power, was shaken to its core. For the first time in centuries, the balance of power had shifted. The kardaani, who had once dominated the galaxy with an iron fist, had been dealt a crippling blow. Their central hive was gone, their forces scattered and in retreat. The council members, who had watched from the sidelines, unsure of how to act, were forced to reconsider their positions. Some expressed relief, thankful that humanity had dealt with the threat that had loomed over them all. Others, wary of humanity's growing influence, saw the Hive's destruction as a sign that the galaxy's balance had been disrupted. The kardaani themselves, once believed to be invincible, were now scrambling to regroup. Their forces, though still formidable, had lost the central coordination that the Hive provided. For the first time they were vulnerable, their aura of invincibility shattered. Even so, they would not surrender easily. The war was far from over, but now, for the first time, there was a real chance to turn the tide. The galaxy braced for what came next, knowing that humanity had sparked a fire that could not be easily extinguished. In the days following the Hive's destruction, there was a growing call to honor the Ebony Legion. Their actions had saved not just Earth, but countless worlds that had lived in fear of the Kardaani's dominance. After much debate, the Galactic Council agreed to erect a memorial in their honor, a testament to the bravery of those who had faced impossible odds. The memorial was placed on a neutral world, a towering monument of stone and metal that bore the names of Harrington, Whisper, Fuse, Titan, Ironclad, and all the others who had fallen in the final battle. It stood as a reminder to every race in the galaxy that courage and sacrifice could change the course of history. Admiral Reynolds was chosen to deliver a speech at the memorial's unveiling. His voice, steady but filled with emotion, echoed through the gathering of dignitaries and soldiers. He spoke not only of the bravery of the Legion but of the need for unity in the face of darkness. The Kardaani had ruled through fear for too long, and now was the time for the galaxy to stand together and fight back. His words resonated with those gathered, especially the younger soldiers who had been inspired by the Legion's sacrifice. As Reynolds spoke, his thoughts kept returning to Harrington, to the man who had been both a comrade and a friend. There was a moment, brief but powerful, where Reynolds paused, his voice faltering. It was a deeply personal farewell, not just a speech for the fallen soldiers, but for the man he had known for so many years. The speech became a rallying cry, not just for humanity but for the other races of the galaxy who had long lived in fear of the Kardaani. For the first time, there was hope. Humanity, once seen as the upstarts of the galaxy, had proven their strength and resolve. Alliances that had once seemed impossible began to form. Species that had been too afraid to act now looked to humanity for leadership. The Ebony Legion's sacrifice had not only crippled the Kardaani but had given the galaxy a chance to unite against a common enemy. The war, though far from over, began to shift in favor of the Allied forces. Empowered by the Legion's victory, humanity rallied its fleets, and other species joined the fight, their fear replaced by a fierce determination to see the Kardaani defeated once and for all. Battles were fought across the galaxy, with the combined forces of humanity and their new allies pushing the Kardaani back, reclaiming lost worlds, and breaking the chains of their tyranny. The Kardaani, though still dangerous, were no longer the unstoppable force they had once been. The destruction of the Hive had broken their spirit, and their defeat was now only a matter of time. The legacy of the Ebony Legion lived on, not just in the stories told by the survivors, but in the very fabric of galactic history. Statues were raised in their honor, ships and schools were named after them, and their tale became legend. Children across the galaxy grew up hearing the stories of Harrington and his soldiers, of the impossible mission they undertook and the victory they achieved at the cost of their lives. The Legion's story became a symbol of the power of sacrifice, of the strength that came from unity, and of the courage to stand against overwhelming darkness. The galaxy had changed, and the dawn of a new era had begun. No longer under the shadow of the Kardaani, the races of the Galactic Council began to rebuild, forging new alliances and looking toward a future filled with hope. Humanity, once the outsiders, had become a respected force in the galaxy, their influence felt across countless worlds. They had led the charge, but it was the sacrifice of the Ebony Legion that had paved the way for this new future. And so, the story of the Legion became more than just a tale of war and sacrifice. It became a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there were those willing to give everything for the greater good. Their legacy would never be forgotten. Their names would echo through history, and their actions would inspire generations to come. The war would end, the galaxy would heal, and the Ebony Legion would be remembered as the heroes who changed everything.